The number.
Well, hello there, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Midas Letter RAW. Fraser Toms joins me as co-host today. My name's James West. I haven't been here in a while.
James, where the hell have you been?
Well, Fraser, what do you think of this hat? Where do you think I've been? I've been to Panama!
It looks like Panama.
Actually, I was in Panama, I was in Colombia, I was in Peru, I was in Bogota, I was in Pereira, I was in Los Angeles, Eureka, Humboldt County. I went to New York City last night to continue a discussion about California acquisition now underway.
Yeah.
Essentially, we went on an asset tour.
You were looking at stuff, your investment activities.
Yes, well, we have stumbled upon a situation that we are so interested in that I will go so far as to say this will be one of the top 5 companies the day it goes public, by my estimation, just because I have never seen a better asset mix on the private side that actually has a really different approach to everything. Wow. That I think is going to, I think it's going to be a winner. So yeah, I'm basically pouring all my money into it.
So is any of the places you were going to, are they all hints as to where this company is going to be dipping its fingers and toes?
Yes. As you know, well, as you might know, I don't know, do you know that Peru just signed legalization law, but they haven't actually published the rules yet.
Yes. We've mentioned that, I believe.
Yes. Colombia has permitted cannabis cultivation, but nobody's really selling it there yet.
Right.
So there's a few situations around the world where cannabis is legal, but nobody's really doing anything about it because the entire legal framework doesn't quite allow it to happen the way it happens in Canada. Mm. And so there are some fundamental differences in laws outside of Canada and the United States that we think represent a trend. And this company that we are participating in has identified that trend and is positioning globally to exploit this trend in a most astute manner, if I can say so myself. And so I'm excited about it, very excited about it. Can't really talk too much about it. It's called Endocan.
Endocan?
Endocan is an endocannabinoid system.
Indubitably.
Not to be confused with Endocanna, yes. Which, strangely enough, as I'm down there on Endocan's behalf, Heritage Cannabis announces that they have acquired this company called Endocanna. Yeah. And I thought that was kind of serendipitous and cool and funny, but not to be confused. They're two different entities, closely spelled but not the same. But tell me, what have I missed here?
Well, it's been quieter. No, we're just like, where's James? Where's James? No, because you were ripping around, like going all over the place. Because initially you're like, I'm going to Peru. Yeah. You're like, okay, he's going to Peru. You were excited about looking at some stuff down there, and then it was like, oh, wait a minute, he's going to California, and then he's going to New York, and so it's a bunch of stuff going on. So
well, it's there's lots going on out there, and let's just say that the opportunities are coming fast and furious now, so one does want to keep apprised of what's out there, doesn't one?
Indeed.
Yes. Yeah, so let's see. Let's talk about what happened in the news with Ricky. Well, we'll have Ricky Gerwith with the news in 1 second. I meant to say, see, I'm out of practice, I've been away. But what do we got coming up today? Well, of course, there's headline news with Ricky Gerwitz at 3:15. Narbe Alexandrian is here from Canopy Rivers to tell us what's new with Canopy. And Trevor Peters is joining us from Willow Biosciences. Willow is one of the biosynthetic producers of cannabinoids. We'll hear where they're at in their evolution. Bob Brilon joins us from Vapen MJ Ventures Corp. So send in your questions if you have any. Load them into the chat on YouTube. Send them via Twitter or email us, midasletter@midasletter.com. So, without further ado, let's cut to Ricky Gerwitz with the news.
Here are the headlines moving markets today. The Flowr Corporation announced a net loss of $5.85 million Canadian in their financial results for the first quarter ending on March 31st. Q1 2019 highlights include a net revenue of $1.6 million, gross profit of $114,000, and a loss per share of 6 cents. Organigram Holdings has announced that its common shares will commence trading on the Nasdaq Global Select Market under the symbol OGI on Tuesday, May 21st. Organigram's common shares will continue to be listed and trade on the Toronto Venture Exchange, also under the symbol OGI. In conjunction with this Nasdaq listing, Organigram's common shares will become DWAC Fast eligible for U.S. shareholders. Origin House announced preliminary unaudited revenue of approximately $11 million for the first quarter ending on March 31st, an approximate gross margin of 15%. In addition, Origin House generated preliminary unaudited revenue for the month of April of approximately $6.5 million, and the company expects gross margin to continue to trend upwards from Q1 to Q2. Green Growth Brands has raised 61.2 million Canadian dollars in a $7 convertible offering. The gross proceeds are pursuant to a private placement of convertible debt in the form of 15% secured convertible debentures at a price of $1,000 US per debenture and with a conversion price equivalent to $7 Canadian per common share. The net proceeds of the debenture financing will be used for general corporate and working capital purposes. Cannabis Growth Opportunity Corporation announced the company's updated net asset value per common share of $3.41 at the close of business on May 15th. This represents growth of 47% since the initial public offering on January 26, 2018, or 23% year to date. CP2 Insights announced that effective immediately, its ticker symbol on the OTCQB markets has changed from CBTOF to the symbol CBIIF. Emerald Health Therapeutics has shipped 6,040 milliliter units of its Sync 25 CBD oil to the British Columbia Liquor Distribution Branch. Fire & Flowr Holdings Corp announced that its wholly owned subsidiary, Fire & Flowr Inc., has been selected by the province of Manitoba to open a cannabis retail location in Swan River, Manitoba. Fire & Flowr was previously pre-qualified by the Liquor, Gaming and Cannabis Authority of Manitoba, and the selection occurred by way of a random draw conducted by Manitoba Growth, Enterprise and Trade. Micron Waste Technologies has been awarded United States Patent and Trade Office intellectual property protection for its commercial organic waste digester unit. Micron's digester hardware is also protected by an Industrial Design Certificate of Registration from the Canadian Intellectual Property Office. The digester is integral to Micron's Organivore food waste processing system and Micron's Cannavore system, the first purpose-built green technology developed for the rapidly growing cannabis industry. And that's your news for today.
Hey everybody. A little dialogue in the comments section about Namaste and what was the other one? Juju.
Yeah.
And some, I will call them not very pleasant commentary about yours truly. And whereas my normal response, if you were sitting here, I would look you in the eye and say, go yourself. I'm not going to do that because that's not fair. You're not here to defend yourself. Anyways, all I would do is say, yes, we have made some awfully bad picks in the past, as does any investor. I don't think there is such a thing as an investor that has made a 100% clean sweep of all their investments. But yes, we would also like to point out that we were first on Canopy Growth. I'm not talking recently. I'm talking back in 2013 before any of you motherfuckers even knew what Canopy Growth was. So there, that's it. That's my that's my Twitter flame for the day. We had Narbe Alexandrian here with us earlier today, and he brought a selection of juices. Now, if you've seen these juices, you probably live in Toronto or some other place in Canada. But Greenhouse Juices have been making quite the stir, as it were, in malls across Canada, because it's like super fresh pressed mixed juices. This one, for example, is cold pressed organic apple, lemon, and ginger. And these juices are notorious for being very expensive.
Yes.
But they're also extremely good. It's raw organic juice, and I mean, if you've got a hangover, this and a dropper full of CBD will set you right. So what do you think?
It's good. No, I've seen it walking around getting food. And,
I'll tell you what, let's drink these and we'll listen to Narbe Alexandrian tell us why we should be watching Canopy Rivers.
Canopy Rivers is the investment and operating platform of Canopy Growth Corporation. The company has developed an investment ecosystem of cannabis operating companies across the cannabis sector. Canopy Rivers works collaboratively with Canopy Growth to identify strategic counterparties seeking financial and/or operating support and affiliation with the Canopy Growth group of companies. Canopy Rivers trades on the TSX Venture under the ticker symbol RIV.
I'm joined now by Narbe Alexandrian. He's the president of Canopy Rivers, trading on the TSX Venture under the symbol RIV. Narbe, welcome back.
Thanks for having me. Really happy to be here.
You bet. Narbe, you've been really making some bold moves here. Let's start with the most recent development. You've acquired you've executed a strategic investment from Canopy Rivers into BioLumic Ltd. Tell me about BioLumic.
Yes, so BioLumic is Canopy Rivers' first foray into the agricultural technology space. So we've been looking at this space in depth. There's a lot of technologies that are being applied to traditional vegetables that could be also applied to cannabis. One of those was BioLumic. So BioLumic tinkers with the photosynthesis process of what a plant sees. So naturally, photosynthesis from the basic point of view, you have a plant, the plant likes to take that sunlight in and then pulls that sunlight in and gives it energy to grow. What BioLumic does is it uses biological developments to tinker with the photosynthesis through a process called photomorphogenesis.
Photomorphogenesis. There's one that's not going to become a household word anytime soon. Okay, so photomorphogenesis sounds like more or less, as you say, tinkers with the plant, but it increases like the metabolic photosynthetic rate.
Absolutely. So what it does is it allows the plant to take in more sunlight, and it gives it a different type of light in order for it to grow. So think of it as light recipe. So using UVB technology, it sends UVB light onto the plant, and the plant through that process can grow faster and can grow more. So early tests have shown that on lettuce, tomatoes, and cucumbers, the actual yield and the growth of the plant increased by 20% using the UVB light recipes versus the sample size of typical normal lights.
Okay, so is the value in BioLumic then in the IP surrounding this process?
Yes, so we co-invested with two new partners on this one, which are a pretty big deal for us. We co-invested with the venture capital arm of Rabobank. Rabobank is the largest agricultural financier in the world. They finance about 80% of all agricultural projects, 12 billion revenue, gigantic bank located out of the Netherlands. That was our first foray into something that touched cannabis, as well as we partnered with Finister Ventures, which is the venture capital arm of Bayer Crop Science. Again, a $50 billion company. This is their first foray into agricultural technology in the cannabis space. So really happy with the group that we brought in. They bring a lot of specialty on the traditional plant side. We came in with our own domain expertise on the cannabis side, and it's a match made in heaven. Wow. And it's our first foray into the New Zealand market too, which we're really proud of.
Wow, that's spectacular on so many levels. Okay, so what's to stop me from just emitting UVB rays into my garden?
It's not as simple as the UVB rays. It's the light recipe that comes with it.
I see.
And that recipe is where the IP lies. So it's not easy to copy. It's not easy to really to reverse engineer as well. But what they've shown is that they've repeatedly grown traditional plants. Our scientists looked at how lettuce and cucumbers and tomatoes biologically mimicked what cannabis actually looks for as well. And there's a clear linkage between the two. So theoretically, they should work. And this is a game changer. In an environment where the cost of cannabis is going down day by day, and you're looking for those cost advantages, the price is going down, you're looking for those cost advantages, BioLumic can really come in and lower the cost and increase the yield of production.
Wow, that's fantastic. Okay, well, I congratulate you on that. That's like pretty awesome. So now tell me about, on May 9th, you announced that you had your portfolio investment Farmhouse has entered into a second offtake agreement with Canopy Growth Corporation. a skeptic is going to say, well, wait a sec, Canopy Rivers is part of Canopy Growth. Aren't you just saying that you're basically watering your own grass with your own hose?
So because we share the same name, people think that we're part of the same company. Canopy Rivers is completely autonomous from Canopy Growth. Canopy Growth is our largest investor into Canopy Rivers. They own about 27% of us. So the rest of that ownership is by public float, ESOP, and some other angel investors from the company
Canopy
as well.
Growth is a minority shareholder of Canopy Rivers.
Yes, our largest shareholder at 27%, but still a minority shareholder from the start. Farmhouse was a project that we kickstarted with, we were looking for, in an environment where cultivation was slowly becoming commoditized, we were looking for the best players to partner with in terms of capturing the global economy in terms of cultivation. So we bumped into the producers of the largest greenhouse operations in all of North America. So they do majority of the tomatoes that you find in supermarkets all over Canada and the US. They have operations in Canada, Mexico, Europe, Latin America, all over the world, and we signed an exclusivity partnership with them. They're growing a 1.3 million square foot facility located in Leamington, Ontario, which they've retrofitted one of their tomato plants into creating cannabis. There's going to be about 100,000 kilos of cannabis being created per year. And so we partnered, originally when we did the deal, Canopy Growth took 10% offtake agreement on that. Then we signed a 20% offtake agreement with TerraSend, and now we just signed an additional 20% offtake with Canopy Growth as well. So 50% of that, the entire 1.3 million square foot facility has already been spoken for, which really de-risks this project for us and allows that runway for the other 50% of external sale.
Okay, how do you arrive at the pricing for selling cannabis from Farmhouse to those two entities?
Yeah, well, we don't disclose the pricing, but the pricing is based off of what market prices would be, and there's a gradual decrease, of course, that happens over the years as we expect the cost of cannabis to go down and the price of cannabis to go down on a wholesale level, and we put that all into it, but it's pretty similar to what market rates are expected to be over time.
Just to be devil's advocate for credibility's sake, at what price, I should say, for cannabis does the commitment to offtake this cannabis from Farmhouse become voided, or are these take or pay kind of contracts in perpetuity?
It's over. This contract is over the 3 years period of time. So beyond that, we'd probably have to get into another contract again. But at least it mitigates that first piece of cultivation.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's great. That's awesome for Farmhouse. And Farmhouse is going to become a public company on its own right at some point?
We don't have any plans to make it a public company anytime soon. The founders of the company, our partners in the entity, they are private greenhouse cultivators. They're a multi-billion-dollar company, privately owned, multiple generations of ownership in the past. So great-grandfather all the way up to currently. So there's no plan to take it public anytime soon.
Fantastic. Okay, and now let's talk about High Beauty. You announced on April 16th that you've done an investment into High Beauty, a company that has created the brand High. And what does High do?
Yeah, so we really believe that the cosmetics and beauty industry is going to be a big deal. And one of the things we do to go into an investment is we landscape the entire value chain and all the subsegments underneath it. So we looked at all 97 different identified subsegments in the cannabis space, and we have about 20 that we're going after. One of them was beauty products. We think beauty products is going to be a big deal. We canvassed all the beauty product companies that you could think of in Canada, the US, and Europe that were touching cannabis in some which way. Pretty much all the names that you can think of. And we spoke to all of them, and we kept bumping into High Beauty. High Beauty is founded by one of the founders and formulators of Goop Cosmetics, which is Gwyneth Paltrow's multi-billion-dollar cosmetics line. She founded 2 other companies after that as well, which were sold in Sephora, Barney's, and Bloomingdale's. And she was a 25-year veteran in not only formulation, but also in the cosmetics industry. Her strategy was, instead of creating a CBD product, she wanted to create a brand. This is before the hemp bill. She wanted to create a brand that could go international, between states, between countries, between continents, and really grow fast. And then she would add the controlled substance onto it as well. So it's called High Beauty. It says cannabis moisturizer on it. It's sold in Sephora stores in Canada, the US, and Europe. And the plan was that now that she had that distribution all over the world, she would think of getting a partner to come in to help her with that CBD formulation. What better partner than Canopy Rivers and all of the IP that we own around that area, or we have access to in that area, to help her out with that. So it was a match made in heaven. With a small team, she was in dozens of publications. She was in the Oscar swag bag for products to give it to celebrities, as well as featured in Coachella. So great publicity on the company and brand building on their end.
Wow. That is incredible. So even though I've never heard of Hive, it's really quite an advanced story. Very cool. So what's next for Canopy Rivers?
So we're looking all over the world. I think the U.S. and Europe present some interesting opportunities for us, from everything from brands to plant science as well. And those are the two key areas we're really focused in right now. We find on the science side, there's a lot that cultivators can do on the cannabis end. Pure play cannabis companies aren't really as sophisticated as we see on the plant science side as we do see on the traditional plant side. So we're finding some really neat partners such as Finister Ventures on Bayer Crop Science, Rabobank, that understand the traditional crop area and can apply those knowledge and that understanding onto the cannabis side. So instead of finding one unicorn cannabis life sciences company, which we still haven't been able to really capture, we think there's about 3 to 4 that are doing some unique things, including BioLumic, that we can kind of put together and create a better package for how we can take the cultivation into the next generation of science.
Well, fantastic. Narbe, we're going to leave it there for now because we've used up our time, but that's amazing. I'm really impressed with how Canopy Rivers is not just resting on its laurels, but it seems to be quite aggressive, and you guys are doing a great job. Thanks very much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me.
So, how do you like the juice?
I thought it was good. I like the ginger kick in this one.
Yeah, and I got a big ginger kick too.
Yeah.
Can you imagine when they put CBD and THC in it?
I can imagine. I'd rather the CBD myself. When it's lunchtime, I don't want to come back to the office and be like...
Catatonic. Like, sorry man, what did you say? You want to talk to me? What? No, I'm too high.
Everything's slowly. What's happening? Yeah.
That would be great. Are you kidding me? Come on, let's get high. Everybody must get high. Let's see what else happened. You know, while I was away, I saw that Canada, the Health Canada rules have changed a bit as it pertains to applying for a license. Now you actually have to grow, or rather build, your structure before you make an application.
Yeah.
Which changes things a bit. One might say they put up a bit of a barricade to competition to those who were lucky enough to get a license without having to build their building first.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But then again, in Brazil right now, that's the process. You want to apply for a cannabis license, first you have to build the structure, and that's how you determine whether you're eligible to make an application. Does your building pass in the first place?
You know, but to me, it kind of depends on the size of the building you're talking about. Like, let's say you were in China and you're going to build a 1 billion square foot, right?
What? Do you know something about a 1 billion square foot grow going on in China? What?
It's actually my deal. So.
Oh my gosh.
They could just end it like that. They'd be like, we're doing a 3 billion square foot grow. We're going to give the world the CBD supply forever.
Yeah, interesting. You know, the world is going to be awash in cannabis at some point in the future. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
I was speaking to a gentleman who, among other things, is an economist, and he says, you know, from an economist perspective, he says, I don't understand how all these people are rushing into a business that has 0 barriers to entry. If you're going to build a business and invest in a business long term, you at least want something that's got barriers to entry so that by the time it becomes profitable, you're not inundated with competition. Yeah. Perfectly reasonable manner of thinking, if you ask me.
Yeah, but with the Health Canada thing, like, let's say, let's pick a realistic number. Let's just say 100,000 square foot indoor grow, just for argument's sake. Maybe instead of building the entire thing, what if it was like a percentage of something reasonable so that you can demonstrate that you can do it and you have a plan to build it out? Or are they saying, no, you have to, whatever you're doing, the whole thing has to be built?
No, I mean, that's obviously the only approach that works, is to start small and get that permitted, and then build your capacity through demonstrating success, which is probably the thinking at Health Canada, I would think, as a result of the first 150 licenses they handed out.
Yeah, but you can't, and I could be totally wrong on this, but you can't get people excited about a 5,000 square foot grow room anymore. Maybe in 2017 that might have now nobody would give a shit.
Well, here's the thing. I was just in Humboldt County, California, where we were touring an asset, and this grow operation was just over 20,000 square feet. So a Canadian investor thinks 20,000 square feet, why are we even talking about this? But the cool thing is they sold $6 million worth of cannabis last year, of which $2 million was clear profit.
Nice.
Yeah, while investing in expanding incrementally their capacity. So one could argue that it's much better to start small if you can reach profitability much sooner as a publicly traded entity. But certainly we've seen on the speculative side of the market, people don't care about profitability, they care about scale, a la Amazon model.
Or maybe they used to, because I feel like even that is sort of...
getting to be a tired sort of story.
Yeah. So...
Yeah, that's true. I mean, nobody comes in and says we're going to be the biggest anymore.
No. And nor could you afford to be. Right?
Well, nobody's going to give you the money.
Yeah, that's true. I wouldn't give them money.
No. How are you going to... Yeah, that's right.
They're not getting my money.
You're going to be the biggest, are you? Well, good luck with that. Get out of here. Yeah, no, that's not going to work. Remember the days when everybody was coming in here and saying, we're going to be the biggest, we're going to be the best, and we're going to be the first. Well, Canopy obviously knocked out that first idea pretty quick. But then the biggest and best was still being tossed around out there. Yeah. I mean, I think up till early 2018, companies coming in here seeking to raise capital would say we're going to still be the biggest and best. In fact, there was one transaction that a gentleman we had in here who was in the Congo, and he said he was going to be the biggest, and he was proposing to grow 100,000 hectares of cannabis in the Congo.
Yeah.
Now, DRC is not the easiest place in the world to do business. That's my idea of an understatement.
Or travel, even.
Or travel without getting shot.
Yeah.
By, crazed minor drug lords in the bush.
But so what do you think is the big downside with the Health Canada thing? Like, The Economist is right to a certain extent, but obviously there's some things, people that are going to lose out that maybe shouldn't.
Well, I don't think so. I mean, if we have already gone into the era where there is no valuation for a license application,
yes,
then isn't it a service to investors to protect them from guys walking around say, give me $100,000 because I'm going to apply for a license and grow cannabis?
Yeah.
The chance of that guy actually ever making a profit and delivering an earning per share to the client, or to the investor rather, is slim to none.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I personally, I cheered when I heard that because there's enough mining companies that are now cannabis companies, and just as in the .com era when mining companies became internet companies, as soon as the .com crash happened, the internet companies became mining companies again, and so that is what I would call a cycle that's governed by business cycles. And cannabis is not new, as some people like to say. It's merely now legal again.
What about for the non-capital markets, small, private, like grower who wants to be, I don't know, like craft style, just super small?
Well, I think that there's always going to be a market for premium dried cannabis that is premium dried cannabis. If you look at the craft brewing industry, the large globalized brands in brewing are fed by a continuous input of smaller craft brewers who they absorb once they've achieved a certain level of success and been de-risked.
Yeah.
So I think that's the same future that awaits the cannabis industry in large part. Certainly cannabis is probably one of the easiest crops to grow. I mean, we're allowed to, every man, woman, and child is allowed, or not child, every man and woman is allowed to grow.
The children, it's for the children.
The children, oh, the children. Yeah, in fact, a little later in the show, we're going to take a look at my home grow operation, which is now in its third week of flower, and things are going very well, and I'm proud to show you today, but we'll get to that a little later. We had Trevor Peters here, the CEO of Willow Biosciences, and just take a look at this.
Hi, and we're joined by Trevor Peters, who's the CEO of Willow Biosciences. Trevor, how's it going?
Very good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So just looking at the past couple press releases, Willow's relatively new to the public markets. It looks like you started trading about a month ago.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we closed a $29 million financing April 12th and began trading April 15th.
Great. So this being your first time on the show, why don't you give us a bit of an overview about what the company is all about and what you've been doing in the last little while?
Right. So Willow Biosciences is a synthetic biology company that for the past several years has done a lot of work in opioid research and ultimately commercializing or developing a commercial pathway for thebane, which is a precursor molecule for all the semi-synthetics like oxy, hydro, buprenorphine, naltrexone, naloxone. And so we finished a program with our partner last year and then began working on cannabinoids about 10, 12 months ago, developing the same concept, which is a synthetic biology platform to produce what we refer to as an API or active pharmaceutical ingredient. So we look at the cannabinoids as an ingredient as opposed to a cultivation process.
Okay, but having said that, I guess you're trying to ultimately grow molecules specific to the cannabis plant.
Right. So when you think about the plant, and it has a variety of uses, some of which really only target the small molecules that the plant produces. And so when you think about cultivation for that purpose, you're essentially throwing away 99% of the plant to harvest the trichomes and the small molecules off the buds of the plant. And so what we view as a relatively inefficient process and costly, and something that we can accomplish via synthetic biology, essentially using yeast as a platform to grow the exact same molecule and do it in a much shorter time frame, 10 days versus a crop that would take 3 to 4 months to grow, and with a much lower cost structure based on our synthetic biology process.
So when you're growing the molecule, and you mentioned comparisons to the plant, like what type of scale, how can we imagine and sort of picture what it looks like? So
fermentation, and this is no different than, it's baker's yeast essentially that we use. It's no different than brewing beer with slightly more complicated, much more complicated science that's involved in actually developing the yeast strain. But that yeast strain, if you can imagine 100,000 liter vat, for instance, and us producing at, to use a round number, 3 grams per liter of product, we can essentially in a 10-day period produce 300 kilograms of pure cannabidiol out the back end. So I'm not sure what the biomass equivalents would be in a greenhouse, but I'm sure you'd be talking about hundreds of thousands of square feet to come up with the same product over a 3 to 4 month period.
Wow. So when it comes to cannabidiol, and there, we know there's over 100 different cannabinoids out there. So if somebody's growing CBD, what does that mean in terms of, like, you can relate it to strains of plants that produce different types of CBD, I guess is the easiest way to understand it.
So the plant produces a lot of cannabinoids, as you mentioned, 100 plus or minus cannabinoids that come out of the plant. One of the challenges with that is not all of those cannabinoids are desirable. So for instance, THC, which is psychotropic, oftentimes you don't want that mixed in with CBD. For instance, Epidiolex, which is produced by GW Pharma, is used to treat children with epilepsy. Obviously, we don't want to be giving them THC. So our process is different in that we produce the pure isolate. So whichever cannabinoid we're targeting, CBD is the one I've mentioned, but any one of those 100 could form part of our process. And that's the nice thing about what we do. is for the end consumer, whether it's an industrial consumer packaged goods product manufacturer or a pharmaceutical company, we can really tailor that end product to what they have. So they've got repeatability, scalability, purity, and ultimately a very low-cost solution.
Okay, so at this point in the business, you want to be able to grow kind of what you say you're going to be able to grow, or cultivate, or I don't even know what the right word is, but biosynthetically produce.
Yeah,
and then sell that to a large pharmaceutical company or whatever end application is, so you can provide the molecule they need for cheaper and much more of it compared to glowing print.
Right. Yeah, cultivation. Yeah, again, we view cannabinoids as an ingredient, so we would be an ingredients manufacturer.
Right.
This is a bit different than, say, food or beverage, in that we're producing a regulated product that ultimately needs to be high purity, so what we call API, or active pharmaceutical grade, and our process tailors very nicely into that. I mean, biosynthesis in yeast in particular and other processes is used for producing insulin, artemisinin. There are numerous drugs, for example, that are in production today because of biosynthesis.
So who would your ideal customers be, and what kind of money could we potentially imagine that could be made from this?
Well, cannabidiol right now, I'll just touch on that last point. Cannabidiol right now in isolate form sells for anywhere between 10,000 to 15,000 per kilogram. If you look at the plant-based manufacturing side, you're probably just under $10,000 in cost, all in. Cannabidiol, other cannabinoids are hard to isolate, purify away from the rest of the products in the plant.
Sure.
So you don't have contaminants. So it's fairly costly to manufacture and purify out your cannabinoid, which is why you see those costs. Our process is much cheaper than that in terms of our cost base, so we can produce well below, probably 90% less than what the cultivation costs would be. So you could imagine margins for us in that range. Ultimately, once we get up and running, we're still obviously in the research and development stage, but once we're up and running in roughly 2 years time frame, and we'll be producing essentially multi-tons of the product. So again, going back to my usage earlier of the 100,000 liter tank, if we're producing 3 grams per liter, every 10 days we'll be producing 300 kilograms of cannabidiol, for instance, or other cannabinoids that are desirable in the market. So you can do some math around 300 kilograms every 10 days, what we can do on an annual basis in that 100,000 liter tank, which we can do anywhere globally. And then the revenue of, say, $10,000 a kilogram plus in terms of what we could command for a price for that product. Again, that's an isolate. That's not a full spectrum extract or whatever comes from the plant. This is a very specific market. Again, CPG, pharma type customers who'd be requiring a highly pure product, which is why the cost base is what it is.
Yeah, okay, so now that we kind of understand what you're doing and what the goal is, on the capital market side, what's the share structure like in the company right now? So
we just yesterday announced a 25-to-1 share rollback, which will ultimately give us, I think, 68.8 million basic shares outstanding. Okay. We start trading post-consolidation Tuesday of next week. So 68.8 million shares outstanding. We've raised the 29 million, as I said earlier. That leaves us in a very well capitalized position. We actually finished 2020 with just under $8 million in cash. That's about the time when we'll expect to start seeing, if not revenue, at least sales contracts that will take us into revenue in that time frame. So leaves us in a very good financial position, a healthy financial position. One of our major shareholders, Tuatara, a large U.S. investment firm, very focused in cannabis, has put $12 million into the company. They have also essentially an option to participate for another $12 million, which we expect them to exercise, and that intervening 2-year period. So that'll be in addition to that $8 million that we finished 2020 with.
Okay, and management ownership of shares is
significant. Yeah. We've also participated, if you look at our slide deck, we participated for about $6 million of that financing, the 29 that we raised. We've also put in money prior to that. So management and insiders, I think we're on the order of 30-35% ownership in the company. So.
Great. So, and I noticed out of the 29 million, one of the major things you're doing is building out 3 labs: San Francisco, Vancouver, and Calgary.
Yep. So right? we have existing labs now in Vancouver and Calgary. We're augmenting those and adding some new components to them, and that's an important part of what we do on the Canadian side. On the U.S. side, San Francisco is our 3rd site, and that's what we do. It's called high throughput mutagenesis and strain analytics, essentially turbocharging the yeast strain that we develop in Calgary. Pardon me, and that's where we are probably going to be spending a bulk of our capital. The high throughput, the robotics, the computational biology equipment that we need down there forms a big cost for us. San Francisco, we'd like to do it all in Calgary, but San Francisco is really where the hotbed of biotech and our staffing requirements really come in from that environment. So, and then G&A and scale up will form part of that cost as well.
Okay, so the difference between Vancouver and Calgary, are they doing different things, or is it just sort of?
They're to you and I, they would be very similar,
right.
But to the scientists, no, they're very distinct. There's more of what I refer to as the macro understanding of the plant that happens in it's UBC Vancouver and then University of Calgary is where our Calgary lab is based. Calgary is where we do. Calgary is really the hub for us. That's where we do a lot of what we call discovery biology. So understanding the plant's metabolic pathway, the factory by which the plant actually produces cannabinoids, that occurs in Calgary. Our chief science officer is a tenured prof at the University of Calgary, a Canada Research Chair in plant metabolic pathways, and one of very few, probably 5 researchers in the world who can do the type of work that he's doing. Understanding the plant and how to take that factory, the assembly line, transport it into a yeast cell and accomplish the same thing.
Great. Okay, and then finally, just quickly, when could we expect the augmentation process to be complete with the money that you raised?
Well, there's a number of components to it, and the main business line that I've mentioned to you, producing cannabidiol. It's something I talk about because people understand it, they're aware of it. Yep. We have a host of other ancillary business lines which we're pursuing at the same time because we are capitalized to do it. We think that over the next 12 months, we'll be in a position where we can start to scale our cannabidiol process. And why that's important is as we go through the discovery biology phase, ultimately through the high throughput mutagenesis strain analytics stage, we will end up at a point where we move from the shaker flask, the test tube, to ultimately a fermentation environment where we're working in multi-liter tanks, and ultimately 10,000 plus liter tanks to scale up our process. So towards beginning of next year, we expect to be in that process, and that's sort of the halfway point to when we ultimately expect to be working in the much larger fermentation tanks and producing high enough concentrations, call it 3 to 5 grams per liter of product, where we can be doing. So 24 months from today, we'll be in the process where we can ultimately start working on sales contracts and ultimately distributing our product.
Great. Well, Trevor, thanks for coming on, and that's a great introduction to the company, and we'll have you back when your next milestone comes around.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Fraser.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Let's talk about Aurora. Recently, your financials, you more or less delivered on.
Here are the headlines moving markets today.
If you're lucky to buy it 3 days ago at 37 cents.
And I think it has a lot to do with some of these smaller names giving really...
Recreational cannabis is here.
It's quite dry. So I'm going to eliminate the stocky bits.
So what was your ultimate impression of Willow Biosciences?
I mean, so we went to the Paradigm Biosynth conference, and the first guy I saw talk was the Amyris CEO.
John Mello.
Yeah, and I found that to be really impressive. And I liked what he said, which was something along the lines of, we're not taking a piece out of the pie, we're expanding the pie completely. So it's not as if because we're growing CBD that means we're directly competing with your full cannabis plant grow. The applications are very specific. And so he touched on it too, because I was saying it's not just CBD and THC, there's other microcannabinoids. And it's like, well, eventually we could grow that specific type of cannabidiol too, if there's a market for it, and sell just that. So there is a market for it. I don't know about the scale. That remains to be seen how, because these guys are talking about growing a 1 million square foot greenhouse in 10,000 square feet, right? Like
worth
the
of
equivalent.
cannabinoids,
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, and I don't even know if they need that much. Who knows? I don't know what the market's like. So it's sort of a new thing, and some people have mentioned biosynthetic growth, on social media, and it seems like it won't really come into its own or become a driving force for investors until maybe later in the year or even early 2020.
Interesting. Well, the biosynthetic space is cool, and it is a bit scary, I'm sure, because obviously it's never going to replace premium dried flower. Or quality extracts, I don't think. Like, you're still gonna, you don't wanna, it's not synthetic necessarily, but biosynthesize vape product unless they're going to grow them with all of the, terpenes and everything. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting.
Well, for me, it's not even like cannabis. Like, it's more, to me, it's more interesting when you're talking about if you could get to the point where you can grow a steak that's like indistinguishable from a cow.
Beyond meat.
Well, that's veggies. They're not. That's coming from yellow pea protein and dried beet juice and stuff like that.
So have you tried the Beyond Meat product at all?
I haven't, but like, what a crazy ass IPO that was.
No kidding. Yeah, that's like one for the record books.
I would like to try it though, because like people that have are saying, some people are going a bit too far saying it's indistinguishable, but they're saying it's actually really good and it's much, much better than any other. So yeah.
I was talking to one of the guys, one of my friends at Canaccord Vancouver, and they have a deal coming to market that is baby food derived from plant sources, exclusively vegan, organic plant sources, which it's the only company out there that does that, at least at scale.
Really?
That's what I'm told. And I thought that would interest you, and I was going to ask you about that. Probably a little bit more pricier than normal baby food, but parents are kind of nuts about what they give their kids to eat, aren't they?
Yeah, except like for us, and I'm not a crazy vegan, but we gave our kids food. We didn't really buy baby food. Oh. The only stuff we ever bought was those packets of organic, like most of the time it's fruit, and they're like squeeze packages.
Oh yeah.
But never
like pureed fruit though.
Yeah, we never bought a single jar of like what's the main where you twist it off and spoon it. No, we'd like boil sweet potato and I'd puree that or spinach or even meat and mix it with something else.
Pureed meat.
Yeah,
just to
ground
make sure
beef.
that
it looked pretty gross, but like who cares?
I bet. Yeah, no kidding.
So I mean, but I think there's a lot of. It's a very divisive sort of topic as soon as you bring in tiny little children.
Yeah. I noticed that the liquor stores company, Alcanna.
Yes.
Have you been to the new cannabis store on Queen Street here in Toronto?
No, I would like to go. Who was in town though? Was it, I think it was Brockstein. He went there and he said it was cool. So,
yeah, I was there before I went on my trip.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pull up some pictures in a moment of that. But Earlier, I was promising to show you my garden at my house. Now, this is not a live shot because my garden is on a 12-hour cycle, and I prefer to give it darkness during the day, so I can't log into the camera now. I could just show you a dark room. But these are the plants that are now commencing their 3rd week of bud. I started them on bud exactly May 1st, and this is a pre-record because I have a little camera in there that records 10 seconds at the top of every hour. So this is this morning before the lights went off at 9 a.m. And as you can see, they're looking pretty good. I'm a little bit concerned with that one in the back corner. The color's not quite right. I just did a nutrient swap last night, and that one's got the bright green that suggests to me that the roots are suffering a little bit of suffocation as a result of too much water, perhaps. So I gotta.
Are those all the exact same seeds, or?
No. So the two on the left are Canatonic, which is high CBD, moderate THC. So actually, I think it's balanced: 6% THC, 9% CBD. The one in the back corner is Black Rhino, and the one on the right, I believe, is Skunk number 1.
That's growing like crazy, eh? Skunk OG or whatever.
Yeah. I think I'm wrong about that. So here's what happened is my first batch of plants that I transplanted died. And so I had remaining seedlings, but I wasn't sure what they were because I didn't think to keep the labels on them. And so I'm not entirely sure. Now, the way that the one in the front right corner has taken off suggests to me that it's more of a sativa, because sativa typically grows a lot taller, a lot faster in terms of height. But we'll know for sure when but sativa, the more sativa it is, the longer it takes for the buds to finish. So a pure sativa takes more like 12 weeks. Yeah. There's been a lot of discussion in the community about genetics and how it's unlikely that there's any pure sativas or pure indicas left. And we were out with Nathan Woodworth at JWC, and he was saying that as far as they were concerned, the genetic composition of indica and sativa, as understood in the current context, are so close together that they actually don't really warrant them being referred to as two separate subspecies. They're actually the same thing, just different phenotypes.
Yeah, and he said the phenotypes within each subset can differ so dramatically that it's not even worth using that distinction. However, Health Canada has made it it's a thing where I think you list sativa or indica.
Well, in the United States, you're only allowed to get CBD is legal as long as it comes from a cannabis sativa plant that is specified in the law that has less than 0.3% THC.
Right.
So if all of these plants are hybrids, then what are those, just phenotypes that have had the selectively bred to produce less THC? I find that one evidence that that's not quite an accurate context to suggest that there's no reason to differentiate between. And the second one is, if you're looking at a set and saying the phenotype variation is so wild because even within the same species, that suggests to me not that there's wild variation in the single species. It suggests to me that the genetics of the single species have been so diluted with indica, with sativa, that if you grow 4 plants and one of them bolts, what is that, ascendant sativa gene?
Or like Nathan was saying, the way that you choose to grow it would dramatically impact what it ends up being as it grows, right? Mm-hmm. So like if we had 2 seeds that are identical and I grow one my way, it would look completely different than yours, depending on
mine would be thriving, yours would be dead.
Yeah, probably.
No,
I don't give a shit. But
I forgot to water my plants again. God damn it, it's been 2 weeks. Oh, it's dry now. No, but those are some pretty good looking buds there, eh, boys? Let's take another look at those before we move on. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, if you want to know when the harvest day is, it should be, let's see, May 1st, June, probably second week of July.
That's a good time.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. We'll certainly give it the old test with our Fluorotech tester. So yeah, what else has been happening? Well, one of the big news items that we should touch on is Organigram Holdings has announced that as of Tuesday, they are going to be trading on the Nasdaq Global Select Market. And I find it interesting. We should look at what happened when other companies joined the Global Select Market.
Well, yeah, and the people in our chat right now have been talking about that a lot. Like, oh, do I sell now? You have 3 minutes left, I guess. Is it Tuesday?
Tuesday, yeah. And Monday's a holiday here.
Yeah, so that's a valid question. Maybe you get rid of half, or maybe you just ride it out. What do you do?
Yeah, okay, so what day, let's take Cronos for an example. Cronos traded on the TSXV and then listed on Nasdaq on what date? Let's see here. Cronos lists on Nasdaq. Let's see what date that was, and then we'll compare it to a chart. Cronos Group to begin trading on Nasdaq on February 26, 2018. Now let's cut to the chart of Cronos Group, and let's go back to, let's go back to 6 months. And where are we here? Whoa, February, what was the date on that? Let's look at the press release again here. February 26, 2018, so we have to go back 2 years here.
1 year and a few months.
February, okay, and then let's zoom in here. This is the month they went public. Let's just look at that. Okay, so here's the window. February 28th, 26 was here. So look at this lift that it got. That day, it went from 967 to 1179. Yeah. So listing on Nasdaq from the TSX venture from Cronos was a catalyzing event, and the stock went higher. So all the people in the chat room are saying, "Are you going to sell it on Tuesday?" Let's look at what happened after it went public. Yeah. Well, so it continued to rise the next day, March 1st, on really big volume, like 7 million shares. Yeah. Obviously, a lot of investors buying it for the first time on Nasdaq. And it continued to go until March 2018, at which point it catalyzed it was a sell-off until April. Now, was that just the Nasdaq bump and grind, like up and down, or was it actually a sector-wide sell-off in that post-Nasdaq listing segment? Here's how we're going to figure that out. We're going to cut now to portfolio manager, and let's look at the cannabis index and go to a chart. Loading. Okay, so we'll go to the 2-year look. We'll go to that same time frame, which is right here, February. Oops, what's going on here? It's not giving me the...
You just drew a circle. Yeah, Another one.
I don't want to draw a circle.
But they're kind of...
Yeah, look at that. It's like three-dimensional. I need a line, and we're going to draw a little coffee cylinder table that sits out. Or no, it's a barrel barbecue. There we go, with a grate on the top. Okay, let's just get rid of that. I don't know why it's drawing and not... So it should be going to charts. Oh, it's because I'm in... No, that's not why. Let's just go to charts and maybe that'll do it.
Oh.
2-year, back out to 2018. We wanted to look at January. There we go. It's got to be in charts, not chart advanced. And we'll look at that same time frame. So here we are, February 28th, and the sector was on a bit of a lift, but not to the same degree that Cronos Group flew. And the sell-off was not generally visible in the... I mean, it was drifting, but it didn't sell off dramatically like it did in Nasdaq. So obviously, Nick Domi and the other people who are suggesting they're going to sell upon the Nasdaq news, I think I would wait till the day after, because that's where it's going to be touching its high if it does the same thing that Cronos Group did the day it listed on Nasdaq. Now,
well, and your entry point too, because Organigram not so long ago, if you look at their
Organigram, okay, let's pull up an
even
Organigram
like a month
chart.
ago, I think it's gained like over $1.50.
Oh yeah,
I could be wrong, but
okay, let's go OGI. OGI, oh no, I don't have to do the extra bit because it's Canadian, which is my default. Okay, so they come out with this news, and here's what happened already today. Look at this. Right down here, this candle, this is today.
That green?
No, wait a sec. That says Monday, May 7th. Oh, I see. It's still showing. It's still showing our selection. So let's go in for a closer look here. Let's look at a 3-month. Okay, so here's, this is what's happened since they announced they're going Nasdaq. People are starting to buy the stock.
Yeah, and if you bought it a month or two ago, you're.
Yeah, what were their last financials like? Do you remember? Maybe we'll pull those up. Let's take a quick look.
Doing a deep dive on Organigram.
Yeah,
right
let's talk about Organigram. Greg Engel and his team, they've been a client in the past, so they've supported us. We've supported them, and I've been an investor. I've made money. I've lost money because I'm a horrible trader. I should never sell. I should only buy. But let's take a quick look and see issuer profiles. O for Organigram, Command F. Organigram. We're going down into CDAR here, which is where all the Canadian companies have to file their financial documents. And let's see, the last financials are the audited annuals right here, amended. So that should be pretty U3B9C. Oh, that was wrong. Let's try again. Z9T5R.
I remember them being positive.
Well, that's why I want to pull them up, is because, as I recall, they were quite good. So here we are at, so this is year end as at August 31st, 2018. So this is full year. So they had $203 million in assets, $11.2 million in liabilities. That's a good sign. That's a nice spread. Sales of $12 million for the year. Not bad at all. Okay, fair value adjustment to biological assets. Look at that. So, of the $52 million accounted for in gross margin, they're attributing $46 million to fair value to biological assets, which are plants that are still growing and or
vault.
I don't think, does that include vault? Dried product? Because that would be inventory. That shouldn't be listed as biological asset. No, I think, let's see, there's note 7, and let's take a look at this. It's always fun to dive into financial statements. I love financial statements. Where is note 7? Way down here. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Okay, now let's go back. 25, what happened? 10, 7, inventories. Here we go. The company's inventory assets include dry cannabis. So, there we have it. Biological assets do not include dried cannabis in inventory.
I thought it just said it did. Company's assets include the following.
No, it says company's inventory assets.
Oh.
Work in process, so this must be cannabis that is being dried and or trimmed and is not yet in the packaged asset. Available for packaging, so this is prepared but not yet packaged. Available for extraction, so now this could be shake, as we used to call it back in the day, or rather the leaves and stalks that still contain cannabinoids, packaged inventory, cannabis oil, concentrated extract, so $44.9 million worth of inventory. Okay, so wait a sec here. So the inventory, and let's stop on the biological assets discussion here. Now, biological assets are interesting. There is no IFRS standard for, or there is an IFRS standard for biological assets, which is what these companies are relying on. But the problem I have with that is, can you really say that a biological asset is sufficiently valuable to offset your expenses to the point where you can have a negative cost of sales? And that question for me is one of the flaws in this. However, we're talking about Organigram here. So let's just go back to the financial statement, and we want to talk about what their likely performance is going to be upon listing on Nasdaq on Tuesday. So let's see. Where did it go? Cash. Okay, so this is interesting. The beginning of the period, they only had 2 million. They did a financing since then, I'm assuming. What else here? Let's see. Shares, 84 million. Okay, revenue, sales. So they did 12 million in sales. They got 46 million in biological assets. And yet they accounted 49 million in inventory. So where are they accounting for inventory on this? Anyways, the bottom line is they were reporting, let's see, income, loss from operations. So they're reporting income of 36 million based on biological inventory, which is interesting, to say the least. But they're claiming income from operations of 17 cents per share. So this is why, despite the fact that this is dependent to some degree on biological assets and inventory, I think that the market is going to rather welcome the idea of Organigram on Nasdaq because of its sort of pharmaceutical orientation as a result of Greg Engels being the CEO. So this is why I think, people who sold Tilray the day it started trading on Nasdaq are probably kicking themselves. And so this is why I'm not saying that you guys are wrong out there who are saying sell on the day it goes public. Certainly there are plenty of examples where you should probably sell if you're looking to exit a position for the short term. But if you're really playing the cannabis industry as a long game, I think Nasdaq listing is just another step in the right direction personally. And I say that as not a shareholder of Organigram, and they're no longer a client presently. They could easily become one again in the future. But yeah, there you have it. It could trade very well. That's the bottom line. You might miss out if you sell everything on Tuesday.
Well, and if you're looking long term, as some of our people here are, if it did a Kronos long term, because when Kronos did that, it was what, like $8-9 or something, and now it's 20.
Well, yeah, and it was over 32 there for a bit.
Yeah, so I mean, if you're not refreshing your screen every 2 seconds, going like, what's the price at now? Then maybe you just.
Kathy Martin, commenting in our comments section on YouTube, says that says that OGI has a fair value of $10.63. I would place a stop loss on a position and let it run. Probably not a bad strategy if you're afraid of losing. But Nikki Domi, hello Nika Domi, she says, I'm not too worried because I'm planning on buying lots of OGI in the summer. So she's obviously more long-term focused.
And expecting the summer to be rather poopy.
Yes.
Yes.
Characterized by feces.
Yes.
Poop, doop-de-doop, poop, 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 poop-de-doo. All right, what else have we got to talk about here today? Let's see, do we have...
There's still vape in there.
Oh, yes, we have... now, do you vape?
No.
No? What the hell's wrong with you?
Well, I don't even think you can.
Why not?
Can you?
I can.
No, but can you buy, like, legally, can you vape in Canada yet?
Yeah.
You can?
Yeah, yes. I have a vaporizer, a Zeus vaporizer at home, kindly provided to us by...
but what do you put in it?
I put in dried cannabis.
Oh.
So this is the thing. There's some crossover in the nomenclature of what exactly. So vaping, a lot of people think vaping is exclusively limited to a cartridge that's got a extract in it.
Yeah, like a PAX or whatever.
But vape is short for vaporizing.
Yes.
So if you put dried cannabis in a vaporizer, you're vaping.
Yeah.
So that's what I refer to when I say vaping. I mean, I'm not twisting up a doobie and sparking it up. I'm sticking it in my vape and I'm vaping it.
You put that in your pipe.
Put that in your pipe and vape it.
Yeah.
Yeah, vape all day long. We be vaping, man. Yeah, so anyways, our next guest has something to say or two about vaping. He is, well, we'll let the screen do the talking.
Vapen MJ Ventures Corporation is an agricultural technology services and property management company. Vapen executes all aspects of cultivation, extraction, manufacturing, retail dispensary, and wholesale distribution of high-margin cannabis and CBD products. Vapen MJ has 75 million issued and outstanding shares, with insider ownership sitting at 80% with a 3-year escrow. Vapen MJ Ventures Corporation is listed on the CSE under the symbol VAPN.
In this segment, we're joined by Bob Brilon, who's the president and CFO of Vapen MJ. Bob, how's it going today?
It's going wonderful. How you doing?
Good, thanks. So you guys have that new car smell of being a new listing on the CSE under VAPN. So you guys have only been trading just a couple days. Just give us an overview of the company and kind of what led up to the listing.
I sure will. Yeah, it's been a great week for us. We listed on Monday, and it's been some great volume, and it's upticked every day, so we're excited. The company itself started back in 2013. It's here in Arizona. Ty Nguyen is the founder CEO, and he started this company to grow. It's a three-part license. And so it's a vertical license, so you can grow, you can extract, and you can run a dispensary. And we do all three, as well as manufacture and do kitchens. So we do edibles also. But it's been a great time. We're 3 years, it really bootstrapped it. The company itself had a great growth path, and then ultimately in 16, 17, 18 became very profitable, and the growth path, the revenue growth just expanded exponentially. What we found out along the way, though, was we really were doing things different than the other guys. We were doing customer service. We were making sure that the quality of the product was better than everybody else's. And so that enabled us to keep customers and grow customers. Then going public became the idea because several Canadian companies had come down, taken a look at the facility and actually made offers. And we looked at what we had, and really with our Vapen brand name and with our standard operating procedures, we felt like we had something special. And it ends up, we went out, started talking with other operators in other states. They really like what we've done with Vapen, the brand name, the marketing on it, the influencers behind it. At the same time, they see our extraction capabilities. And so we're going to set up some partnerships with people out there in many different states where we'll be at 50-50 owner or 60-40 owner and have a nice profit share from that. We'll do some of what's typical, and that is going out and acquiring other dispensaries that we believe that we can do a turnaround. They may be doing 6 to 10 million in revenue, and we want to bump them up to that 15 million to 20 million revenue per year. So it's an exciting time for us. So we're looking forward to it.
For sure. So how can we understand your footprint right now? I understand it's expanding and you're looking to scoop up dispensaries and so on and so forth. But just so people know kind of where you're located and how many locations and maybe where you're doing the extraction and if you're growing and how much and all that kind of stuff. Sure.
The revenues from the past, and again, that's what's nice about us, is we have, last year $18 million in revenues, over $6 million in EBITDA. That was all generated from just this one Arizona license. And like I said, that's from the grow where we're doing the bud is being sold at the dispensary. That's about half the business. The other part of the business is Vapen. So we take the Vapen extracts and the distillate, we sell it through our dispensary, but we also sell it through 65 other dispensaries here in Arizona under the Vapen brand name. So it doesn't look like a competition, and they're able to make their 50% profit on that, and everybody's happy. So that $18 million is right here in Arizona. Again, we're expecting that to be 22 to 26 million next year. But going forward, we're already in negotiations with the different partners out in, and we've talked about different states that we went to immediately, which was like Oklahoma, Massachusetts, Nevada, California. So you'll see some press releases on that in the very near future as soon as we get those locked down and get some operations there so we can project exactly what those can do for us this year.
Okay, so it looks like you guys are expecting to do a raise to sort of meet some of those goals. From what I'm seeing here, you want to raise $4 million. Is that right?
Yeah, that is correct. That was we put that on in the early press release, and that raise is going very well. We should be able to close that very, very soon.
And that's just to continue to expand and sort of hit your milestones over the next year?
It is on these different opportunities, these joint ventures in the different states. Part of our piece of the deal is to bring in about $500,000 to $800,000 worth of equipment, and that's the extraction equipment. So that's where part of that money will be used.
Okay, great. And then just looking kind of further ahead, what's the ultimate goal for the company? Is it for the Vapen brand to be sort of a nationally recognized go-to brand?
Most definitely. And we will be, as we have done here, we will be promoting that brand. There's a lot of hip-hop influencers that have been introduced to the brand, have been very helpful in getting the word out there about, and it's the quality is what stands out, is when we go up head-to-head with somebody else, there's a taste test there. There's, the quality of the THC involved. And we've won consistently, so we're very excited to take that brand name throughout the United States and actually internationally here very soon.
Okay, yeah, that was my next question. If you're going to peek your head north of the border or around the globe, depending on the different countries that have legalization so far. So I guess that is in the works, or it's a part of the plan?
Oh, it definitely is. And we also do CBD. And so we're already shipping CBD around the world at this point, and we'll be discussing more because those distribution networks and channels are becoming much more solid for us. We also have partnerships here in the United States where we'll be producing and extracting CBD from hemp.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks so much, Bob. That's a good overview of the company, and we'd like to check back with you in few months' time and see how it's going.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the time this morning.
No problem. Cheers.
Yeehaw! Back to me. Whoa, a little stunned deer in headlights mode there. Yeah, haven't got much sleep. One day, this is my travel day, so I have a dinner in Lima, Peru. I go to the airport. I get on a plane at 9 o'clock. I get to Bogota at midnight. I go to my hotel. I get to bed at 2:30 in the morning. I get up at 4:30 in the morning to go back to the Bogota airport, jump on a plane, and go to Pereira, Colombia, where I then get in a car with two other people, and we drive for another hour south to, I can't remember the name of the town, and then we got on horseback and rode the last piece of the journey to a grow operation that's a late-stage applicant outside of Pereira, Colombia, on horseback, which was so cool. It was fun. Then took the horse back to the car, back to the airport, back to Bogota, get picked up by another representative of a major asset in Bogota. Mm-hmm. Go out and visit this thing. Go have dinner with the owner till 10 o'clock at night. Get dropped off at my hotel by 11. Go to sleep, and I get up at 2:30 in the morning again to go and fly from Bogota to Panama, Panama to Los Angeles, Los Angeles to Eureka, to drive another hour south to Ferndale, where I stayed, waiting for the next morning, because at that point I'd been traveling for 14 hours, and drove the rest of the way to another asset that we're looking at in Humboldt County, that we then met with the gentleman in New York last night, and things are moving forward on all cylinders. But that has been that's the style of my travel for the last 2 weeks. No sleep, traveling at night and early in the morning, and just so if I seem a little bit punch drunk.
No, I can't function with lack of sleep, so I don't even know how.
Yeah. Well, the only reason I could function was thanks to, I'm going to say it, CBDs. Because, again, when you need to sleep, those things, you just go right to sleep. When you need to stay awake, you feel energized. I mean, people are criticizing others for calling cannabis a miracle drug. But here's something I'm going to tell you right now. CBDs will make your hangover go away completely. I'm not kidding. This has now been tested. I'm not going to say clinically, but we have experimented extensively. Hey, let's do a CBD test. Let's get gooned out of our faces tonight drinking, and then we'll see if the CBD cures it. Guess what? It works. It works.
Even if it works 30%, that's enough for me. I get brutal hangovers, and I would love even a 30% reduction. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, no, it's beyond 30%. Incredibly, headache gone, feeling of inability to do anything because your brain's a mess, gone. Clarity returns, initiative returns, and you're I don't think you want to do it every day, get drunk and use CBD, but certainly when the night comes around where it's I should have gone home after that second beer, but no, I stayed out till 5 a.m. Those are the days when you need to have a jar of CBD isolate in your drawer. And I'm talking 50 milligrams. You got to do at least 50 milligrams if you're 180 pounds to have the curing effect from the hangover. Now, you're probably wondering, since we've been traveling around so much, what we're going to do for a show next week. So next week, Ed Mileski will be here for a segment, I'm sure. Dmitry Zaitsev is going to be here, the Russian Bear. Fraser will be with us again, I'm sure, for some interviews. So we've stopped doing the live show production every day, but we're still producing quite a number of videos, and that will slow down a bit in the summer as well, I'm afraid to report. But that's because we are trying diligently to build a better mousetrap, as it were, when it comes to Midas Letter. In fact, I'm going to go out on a limb and go so far as to say that by September, we will be right out of the financial communications business, in that you will not be able to buy our participation. This will be an exclusively non-paid platform, and we will survive simply by investing. Now, as I've often said, I think it's better to run a business that accepts payment for financial communications, fully disclose it, because we don't pump stocks, as some people like to suggest we do. We talk about them, we talk to everybody, but at least that way you know what company's spending money, and you know it's disclosed, so you can probably rest assured that they're not doing any of the other shenanigans that companies that don't spend money and don't.
No, and we get accused of that when they're not clients.
I know.
So, which actually makes it seem, that's an argument to be made that it's fair, right?
That's what that is the point I'm trying to make in a roundabout way. But anyway, so that's down the road. We're working on a film called Oh Cannabis, The New War on Drugs, that is going to be released this year at some point. We're cautiously optimistic. And this is a feature film we've been working on for over a year that has seen us travel the world from Israel to Bogota to, London is next, Berlin, France. And basically this is a film that talks about how cannabis is sweeping the world. There's a cannabis revolution underway, but also how did we end up with an opiate crisis, and was the prohibition of cannabis somehow tied to that? It's a really cool film that Fraser is the co-director of. I'm a co-director of. We have a real talented bunch of people making this film. It's been over a year in production, and that's going to be out on, I'm not going to say where it's going to be
It'll be out on the 17th of
May? Tomorrow?
No, yeah. No, we don't disclose that.
All right.
Just the
we
date.
don't disclose that. I love that when public companies say, well, we don't disclose that. It's like, well, you know you're a public company, right? Yeah. Disclose it. Come on. Anyways, what else are we working on? Next week, we're going to try to get... the audience has been asking about a Soyuz cannabis, and they are halted now pending a transaction. We will not have the CEO in during the halt, but we will have somebody in from Soyuz to talk about the transaction once the merger has been approved, assuming that is finalized. What else are we working on? Let's see here. We're going to take a good close look at CanAmerica next week. CanAmerica is doing a financing. Paul King is the principal of CanAmerica, has a reputation in California. We're going to try to get Paul on the show. We're going to try to get down to California and see his grow operation. They're growing in Salinas County. We're going to go see that. We're also going to take the biosynthetic scrutiny and discussion up another notch. We're hoping that Mather Carscallen will be here. Mather is the CEO of AlgaeC Inc., which is a company that is planning to produce cannabinoids on algae in a biosynthetic environment. And let's see, what else have we got coming up next week, Fraser?
That's enough.
That's enough?
That's quite enough.
Don't we have any, didn't you finish any nice mini docs that you've been working on?
A mining one.
Yeah, so we had a film, we did a film, while you were sleeping last night, we went to South Africa and produced a film about Galani Gold. Now, Galani Gold, you're going to see people be like, oh my God, here they go again with the mining. But this stock is so cheap, and when you see this video and what they have, you're going to fall out of your chair. You're going to say, what's wrong with this picture?
Well, what's a junior mining company typical is like, there's a plot of land and some paper.
And they're going to drill a bunch of holes in it. Yeah. You should give us money because we're going to hit gold.
Right.
These guys have 2 mines in production. Yeah. One is expanding, and
people are doing stuff. They're digging around. There's trucks moving.
Well, they got gold. Yeah. They're producing gold. There's gold in our hills. So that video will be out next week. We'll have a lot more for you, but yeah, there's a lot going on here at Midas Letter, and so we really appreciate you guys watching. We'll hope everybody in Canada has a wonderful long weekend. Everybody in the United States, just have a wonderful weekend with your dingbat president. Oh, did I say that out loud? Oh, yes, and let's not forget that Don Trump pardoned our good man Connie Black.
Connie,
Sir Connie Black has now been publicly pardoned by the President of the United States in exchange for a good book about him. Did you notice that?
Oh.
I mean, this guy's... We should all write good books about Donald Trump. We'll get some kind of direct interaction with him. Anyways, that was a remarkable event. That's our show for today, everybody. Thank you very much for watching, and we will see you in 1 week's time. Don't forget to tune in during the week to see interviews with all of the upcoming LPs. Thank you for watching.